It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
What's up, everybody? TB and VH in here. Cats Talk Wednesday, another Wednesday evening, rolling through the summer. What's happening, TB? How we doing today, man?
Getting ready for Game 3 tonight.
Ooh, we got C-Web.
It's C-Web.
Ooh. First part of his career when he dunking on Charles Barkley.
Yeah, Charles gave him that 20 piece. Or the 70 piece that next game. But yeah, doing good, man. Doing good. It's 5 weeks out from closing on this new house, so we putting it down, man.
Yeah, see, everything happening fast. That's good though. That's good.
So, yeah, the wife is going through the nesting. We've got bed sheets. We've got towels that we're getting for the new place. We're getting a bed for the new place. So yeah, man. I'm gonna have to get another part-time job and be delivering newspapers or something because it's prices is high.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. So, you're out there making sauce. Gotta get that in too. You're here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I finally my dad he was a very good cook. Cooking was what he did to kind of relax and all that kind of stuff because he had a very stressful job being a police officer. So he cooked and he would come up with his own recipes. So he came up with his barbecue sauce recipe, which was, I mean, we all know somebody in the family that's got a barbecue sauce recipe. Mm-hmm. So he wouldn't give it to me and my brothers. You had to be married before he would give it to you. You had to reach a certain milestone. Mm-hmm. And so he gave it to my middle brother, Kemp. And we went over there, his house for a barbecue cookout, and he messed it up. He added something to the sauce, and my dad was not too happy. So I finally got the sauce, and I was scared to make it. I was like, I don't know. So I've had the sauce forever and ever, and finally decided with Mama B's blessing to make it this past weekend. And the sauce I made was good, was not quite the same. So I'm thinking he left something out, which he was famous for, leaving stuff. He would give you a recipe, but he would leave out something. And so toward the end there, with his dementia, I told him, I said, you gave us some recipes, but I think you left some stuff out. And he said, well, and shrugged. So, I would love to have the recipes, but just that look on his face and that smile, like, yep, I didn't give it all of it. So
you got what you got, and that's it.
Yeah, so I do have a good sauce, but it's not quite the same. And because the thing was, when he would make it when I was growing up, he would have every spice we had in the kitchen on the counter, so you didn't know what he was putting anything. Like, he would go to the store to buy spices and stuff, but he would have a whole bunch of ingredients that you knew wouldn't go on this. Like, he would buy fake decoy stuff, so you didn't know what was in what.
He out here with the audibles and the Peyton Manning Omahas on y'all with the spices.
Right. Audibles. Right. So you wouldn't know. You would be like, it could be paprika, but I don't know. So I did make it, and it was good. It was good, but had to get the blessing from Mama B to do that, and we had a good laugh about him not sharing his recipe because she doesn't even know.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she does not know a lot of his recipes and that kind of stuff. So it's been cooking out. It's summertime. It's warm. Love to get out there on the grill and all that kind of stuff. Got to buy a new grill for the new house. So exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My sister kind of done that. My dad had his. My mom made hers, and everybody's different. And Mom's is more thicker and sweet, and Dad's was kind of a little bit thinner and had that more spicy kick to it. And my sister makes it, and it kind of comes out like a hybrid of both. And like you, we watched Dad make it 1,000 times, and we thought we saw what he was doing, and but you just can't replicate it.
Yeah, because there's always something. There's always, a pinch, a dash. When especially when old folks was cooking, they were not using measuring thing like, oh, just put you a pinch in there. What does that mean?
Yep.
Just put you a scooch in there. Well, what is that? What kind of measurement is that? Is that a metric measurement? What are we doing here? So
just going by feel and eyeball and stuff. Boy, that's it.
Absolutely, but we're doing good here in the heartland. No real complaints, man.
Yeah, good stuff. We got Maggie Davis. I think we will complete the BBN Tonight. I don't know if we'll call it Circle of Trust or what's the stones that Thanos had. We about to complete
the Infinity Stones, man. We've got the Infinity Stones, yeah.
Because we have Anna Tarullo, Keith Farmer, Christy Thomas, Jesse Riffey, now Maggie Davis. Speaking of Anna, that's our girl from way back. She's been coming on here from before she came to Kentucky. She was still back in West Virginia covering Marshall and the Mountaineers, and she was over in Huntington and Charleston and all that. And she was coming on here before she came back to the Bluegrass State. So we've been knowing her from way back, and she had some surgery yesterday. She's kind of went into she even went in detail about what she went through on here with us. And then she's kind of posted on social media some of the stuff, some of the mistakes, negligence, and malpractice that caused her to go through hell basically on the operating table. And she had some surgery yesterday. She's not going to be on TV for about a month or so. I think they said be in July or so before she's back. But got to give our thoughts to our girl, Anna Tarullo, who is hopefully can finally maybe get all this health stuff behind her that she's been going through for a long time.
Absolutely, definitely sending her all our love, and it was an ordeal. It was an ordeal, and she spelled that out. I think last summer when she came on, maybe, or the fall, I can't remember, and really laid all that out. And you can follow her on her social media, and it was a harrowing story. I remember when she was talking about it in real time, but then when you step back and you look, it's like, probably even worse than what we got the first time. There's definitely sending her, our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, for sure. Because she's been more than gracious with her time hopping on here with us, and a super duper friend of the show. We talked about Reggie Warford too, and with him passing and playing for Kentucky, being the first African American player to graduate, and everything he went through. And we were talking before we got on the air about the influential rappers and how they paved the way for rap today. Well, Reggie did that for the African American players at Kentucky that are there now. Without
Absolutely.
him, there's no Goose Givens. There's no Marion Haskins and Larry Johnson and all those guys that came right along, in the mid 70s. But we put this show up on YouTube, and of course y'all can see it on Roku, courtesy of the BS3 network. And we'll always talk about that. Thanks to Ben Surth and everybody that puts us on. But a comment popped up on YouTube from last week, and it said, thank you. And it kind of blew me away. It said, thank you for talking about and mentioning my dad, Reggie Warford. He was a humble man who rarely ever talked about his place in UK's history, but always hoped that people would know the story. And I might have misspoke because he said it was the 76 NIT. I might have said 77 by mistake. So this is one of Reggie's sons that saw us and commented because we had talked about Reggie. And so I replied and appreciate him watching and commenting. Apologize for misspeaking on the year of the NIT. And I said, if at some point you'd like to come on with us and talk about your dad, we'd love to have you. and he said he'd be more than happy to discuss sometime. So I'm gonna try to get. Not sure which son it is yet, but one of Reggie Warford's sons here. So I know he had two boys, and we'll get one of his sons on here to talk about Reggie here in the coming weeks. So that's exciting, man, to be able to.
That's great, and we just, as you like to say, our little show. We just trying to not be hot takey, to talk about things with a little bit of depth and substance. And speaking of hot takey, JJ Redick is making me love him on ESPN.
I missed this.
Well, he's standing up to Stephen A. Smith.
Okay.
And Stephen A. Smith, look, he's not my cup of tea, right? A lot of these dudes, him and Skip Bayless, they start out kind of humble newspaper reporters, and then they get on TV and it becomes something else. And I think obviously some people enjoy what they do, or else they wouldn't be making the millions of dollars a year and all this kind of stuff. But most fans are looking for some nuance. There's no need to make things personal. So there's a clip, I think it was today, and I tweeted about this too. People love the 80s and 90s of the NBA. That has become the golden era of the NBA. And which is fine. Look, people can have personal preferences for if you like the dead ball era. Some people like basketball before the 3-point shot. That's fine. Or what have you. But when people wistfully look back at the 80s and 90s, it's very rarely for basketball reasons. They look back and it's like, I enjoyed it when dudes were allowed to clothesline each other. Kevin McHale clothesline of Kurt Rambis, and neither dude got ejected. Like when you've got Dr. J and Larry Bird throwing punches and nobody gets it. And look, again, like what you like, but basketball got too physical. It was freewheeling in the 70s, the mid to late 80s and 90s. It became just a grind to watch the NBA. And you hear people talk about, these players today are soft, and it's like, because they're not clotheslining each other. They're not crippling each other. Like, that's got nothing to do with basketball. Right. I remember when guys was tough, like when Karl Malone elbowed Isaiah Thomas. Like, is that what we want? That's got nothing to do with basketball. And in the 80s and 90s, we had great basketball players. But it's never a wistful, man, I miss the 80s and 90s when Dominique Wilkins was dunking. It's always, I remember when the Pistons was clotheslining dudes into the, like, it's got nothing to do with basketball. And so that's the narrative that they were saying on, I guess it was Get Up or whatever it is on ESPN. I don't watch it because it's not my thing. But JJ Redick was getting a little heated. He's like, basically, quit crapping on the current players, our generation. And Mike Greenberg was there, guys are always complaining. And JJ Redick said, Michael Jordan didn't complain to officials. Magic Johnson didn't complain to officials. Larry Bird didn't complain to officials. Is that what you're saying? And then it's, and so I think it was yesterday, CJ McCollum is on there.
Okay.
And the point that Stephen A. Smith was making was he was upset that Russell Westbrook was at the introductory press conference for Lakers coach Darvin Ham. And CJ and JJ, which sounds like a buddy cop comedy, basically were
this fall.
What is, why you've got a problem with Russell Westbrook as a player for whatever reason. what does that have to do with him being at this press conference? What are we doing here? And it was just, and they're very nice and measured and all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of pushback that these guys need. No, okay, what are you saying? You know, and I think there is a discrepancy between these talking heads and the athletes they cover. I have forever said, you can say, Russell Westbrook. I have said on here, man, you can't shoot from the left side of the rim, hit the right side of the backboard. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah,
that's fair, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about, his manhood and what he is as a person, like, come on, man. And Stephen A. and his ongoing beef with Kevin Durant, you don't want me to be an enemy. What the hell what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I don't understand that kind of aspect of it, but I never would have found myself to be rooting for JJ Redick at all. Here I am in the year of our Lord 2022. I'm in the middle of Iowa rooting on JJ Redick. Who would have seen that coming?
Yeah, so, that's a twist.
Yeah,
that's what they do to you. Now you said you're speaking of hot takes. You're in support of JJ Redick. Now on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think Bomani's boy Nick Wright been kind of getting on your nerves, he kind of.
So Nick Wright tweeted, I guess, was it yesterday? I can't remember. Days start to run together. Totally unprompted, I'm guessing, but the worst Finals MVP of all time in his estimation was Wes Unseld of the 78 Baltimore Bullets, who only had 12-9 to lead the Bullets to their only championship. And it's weird to look back 40 years ago and look at the stat sheet, because numbers don't always tell the story. And I want to say that Bomani Jones was talking about this with somebody before, about like MVPs or finals MVPs or the top 75 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember who he was talking to. I can't remember now, but it was basically Wes Unseld is an outlier. His impact won't show up in the numbers, because if you look at his career numbers, they are not spectacular.
Right.
Just by themselves. Like, I mean, I think he was a double-double career guy, but I don't know. His numbers just, you look at him like, that dude's top 75. But you talk to the Hubie Browns and the Bob Ryans and the dudes that have been covering the league a long time, no one that watched him play calls him overrated. Mm-hmm. Not one. Everything he did was to help that team win. And so I have an issue with looking back 40 years ago and going against the people that actually watched the series.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's fair. The MVP, whether it be regular season, whether it be for the finals or whatever, everybody's got their own interpretation. Mm-hmm. And back then, it wasn't so much narrative as who was the best dude on the court. That's why Jerry West won the award and lost the series. Mm-hmm. LeBron should have won it in 2015 when he led everybody in everything. You want to talk about finals MVPs? How is Andre Iguodala going to win it when he held LeBron to 32 points? Like, you can't say that with a straight face. He held LeBron to leading all players in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. That is insane. That is insanity that one person did that in a 6-game series, I think it was, in 2015. Like, come on, man.
Shades of Ruben Patterson.
he held him to that.
Yo.
But yeah, it's unfair because the thing is, and this is why I do disagree with JJ Redick, talking about the Bob Cousies and all that kind of stuff. And poor Bob Cousy, he's minding his own business. He gets pulled into everything. But it's unfair to judge players then with players now. It's just unfair because games evolve and different things like that. Like we were talking about before we got on here. Rolling Stone has their top 200 hip hop rap albums of all time. Zero interest in seeing that list. Zero. Because it's Rolling Stone and there's a bunch of people born after Y2K. I'm not listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a prompt on Twitter, a viral tweet, the most influential rap album of all time. And a lot of these youths, Kendrick Lamar and Lil This or whatever, J. Cole, I think, is a rapper. I said no, nothing in the last 10 years. Because my thing, most influential, Raising Hell Run DMC. First #1 rap album, first rap album to go platinum, and was the first one to get major airplay on MTV with the videos. Was because of Walk This Way. You and I are old enough to remember when rap it wasn't real music.
Yeah.
Right? It was just a fad, and it was just black music. I'm old enough to remember all these things.
Nowhere close to mainstream.
Right. Mm-hmm. And just in our lifetime, it's probably the driving force of American culture. You know how I know that? Because grandmas and I were talking about got to get the bling. Mm-hmm. Right? From I can't remember who, the song Bling Bling came out in 98. And now everybody talks about the bling. Yep. Everybody's dropping it like it's hot. Hip hop culture drives everything. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about influential, you got to go back to that. So again, going back to the Bob Cousies and that kind of thing, and poor Bob, he probably couldn't guard Patrick Beverly, prime against prime, right? Okay, but you can't discount what those dudes did.
No.
They had to put the work in for the league to become viable. Mm-hmm. Like there was no guarantee this stuff would take off.
Even in 1978, 79, it was still in the air. Tape delayed.
The NBA, the last NBA playoff game to be tape delayed was 1985.
Yeah, it was still dicey.
Tape delayed.
What?
Like you talk to old people, the Dr. J dunk over Michael Cooper, some of those people saw it on tape delay.
Yeah.
Like this could have gone a different way.
It wasn't a lock to be what it is now at all.
Exactly. And basketball was, it was a young league, it was a young sport. Baseball was king. Baseball was used to be America's pastime. Mm-hmm. So for basketball to in just 40 years, it has become a global game. In 40 years. That's and you look at the people kind of at the top of the league right now. Giannis, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic. It's purely an Embiid. Like it's purely it's an international game. And so while football is king here, you got kids growing up all over the world thinking about coming to play in the NBA. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
Nick Wright also, speaking of support, you went covered all the spectrum, riding with JJ Redick for standing up to Stephen A and all those guys.
Yeah.
And Nick Wright, I mean, even if he could pick somebody else, it might have still ruffled feathers. But when he came after Louisville's own Wes Unseld, I was like, oh boy, here we go. And then before that, he's trashing Unseld's stats based on just looking at the box score, because the numbers jumped out. Elvin Hayes should have won it, not Wes Unseld, in his opinion. And before that, he's already anointing Luka, giving Luka the Shaq in 1996 treatment 4 or 5 years in, putting him on his whatever top, way too high, his top 50 in the last 50 years.
Yeah, his top 50 in the last 50. Luka Doncic, and look, Luka is great. Luka is not Shaq.
Right.
Like, Luka is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Shaq, and this is kind of, I guess, that age thing, but my whole thing when we talk about to these kids younger than us, you can watch full Shaq games when he was in Orlando. Mm-hmm. And you knew you were watching something different. You just knew it. Mm-hmm. Luka's fantastic, but Shaq was a force of nature. We talk about the unicorns, the 7-foot. What we were seeing Shaq do, his first season in Orlando, was mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. Well, all he could do was dunk. One, that's not true. And two, look at what he's doing against the best centers of that era.
Yeah.
So saying, well, this is what they did to Shaq. Luka's not Shaq. Luka's great. He's not Shaq.
Mm-hmm.
Because Shaq from the jump was, all right, I got it. So, and it gets so hard when you pick, lists, because somebody's going to get left out. And some dudes, it's like, where do you put them on your rankings? Like, for instance, you and I think we've talked about, best point guards of all time. We kind of de facto all put Magic at 1. Mm-hmm. I would put Isaiah Thomas at 2. Yep. He's better than you think, kids. Mm-hmm. And part of that's because MJ didn't like him. And so we have kind of let Michael Jordan's coloration of Isaiah Thomas, influence how we feel about him. But Isaiah Thomas was great. He was great. 25 points in that game 6, third quarter on a broken ankle. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah.
Still see him limping back down on defense after hitting a jumper. Gimpy is all get out, man. Ankle swole up, big as, and just out there getting buckets. And this, the little dude that, but when I was talking about little guy, that how far can this little guy take you? Well, he took you. He's get on my back, Isaiah. Okay, I'll facilitate. I'll get these 7-8 dimes. Oh, I need to take over. Here I go. And anytime he wanted to flip that switch was getting flipped.
And we talk about, because part of the conversation with great players, okay, who are their teammates, right? Who do they play with? And Isaiah played with very good players, but he didn't have another elite player. Mm-hmm. Well, he had Joe Dumars. Love Joe. He was Finals MVP, in 90? Yeah, because Zeke in 89 and at 90, or vice versa. Either way. But Joe Dumars ain't on nobody's list.
Right.
Bill Laimbeer, we know about him more for fighting. He could ball, but come on. Rick Mahorn, really? When I was talking to somebody about, I think we were tweeting back and forth. And I'm like, in an era where you needed 3 Hall of Famers to win a championship, right? In the 80s, you needed at least 3, because the Lakers, we had 4, but Lakers with their winning time team, and the Celtics with their big 3, the Sixers with their big 3, right? Mm-hmm. And even your Rockets in '86 had 2.
Yeah, Samson and Olajuwon. Did is Mark Aguirre in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know.
They traded Adrian Dantley to get Aguirre, and that's what kind of put him over the hump, because was after they won the first one, they trade AD, I think, So I remember Isaiah in the locker room saying, we love you, AD. And I was like, man, I feel so bad for AD. I'm like, man, he down there in Dallas with the sorry Mavericks, watching them squirt champagne on each other and say, we wish you was here. I'm like, oh, that's rough.
Right.
But
so
is AD, was Dantley a Hall of Famer? Dantley for Aguirre. That was the only other close to elite players that was on that squad.
yeah, well, and remember when they did the NBA at 50 back in 95, 96, and they had guys grouped together, and you looked at those teams from the 80s. You had Bird and McHale, even Bill Walton is there with them, and the Lakers have their peak. And Isaiah standing by himself. Even Michael had Scotty.
Yeah.
So it we don't give Isaiah enough credit. But my point is that numbers sometimes don't tell the whole story. I'm going to throw some more shade at Utah. Karl Malone, all the points he scored, and Stockton with these the assists and the steals records, which are phenomenal. But nobody's going to bat telling me you can't look me in the face and say John Stockton was better than Magic Johnson. Well, he had more assists.
So you and I and Sean Vincent were talking about the other day during the finals. You said because you look and Steph does get hunted. Everybody goes at Steph on defense, and they get him in pick and rolls and get him switched up and go at him. And you're like, for an all-time great, does this happen to anybody else besides him? And I'm putting Stockton in there, and maybe Dirk. Dirk kind of get that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's rare, and it hits my ear wrong when Mike Breen is like, they are hunting out Steph, because you don't hear that for top dudes, even dudes that aren't really good defensively, like a Dirk. Like, no one is going out of their way. Like, the whole game plan is we're going to attack Steph on defense. Now, Steph is better on defense than I think he gets credit for, but it's still just weird to me. All right, we're going to screen until we get Michael Jordan in isolation, until we get Kobe on the dude. Like, that's my only knock against Steph.
Yeah. And in the old days, we're
old men on yelling at the cloud, so it's all good.
In years prior, you used to fight through those screens. I mean, now it's just switch and get. If they dictate the matchup, it's like we're at their mercy. But you used to fight through those screens more so. Even playing at the park pickup, you and I in the pick and roll and something like, hey, Vinny, fight through or switch one or the other. But now it's just okay. We'll just let them put us in the matchup they want and hope they miss.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were talking about with the style of play in the 80s and the 90s, and that freedom of movement. You can't play defense like you used to. You can't grab and clutch and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a whole lot easier to fight over a screen if you can grab some jersey or you can put a forearm in somebody. But by the same token, I looked this up. Where did it go? In the 2003 NBA Finals, Game 4, the Nets beat the Spurs 77-76. Who's watching that? Like, what are we? No, like, come on, man. Like that's unwatchable.
Yeah, 48 minutes.
That it's unwatchable to watch that. Now, conversely, do I want to see a team throw up 53s in a game? No, I do not. That seems antithetical to basketball. So there's got to be a happy medium with that. But we'll see. I love Steph.
It was just
he's a great player, but man, looking for him on defense, that hits me wrong. You're an all-time great.
That's it. Speaking of that Nets game being unwatchable, our guest is watchable because everybody watches her on BBN Tonight, and she is kind enough to join us Right now, as we speak, we're talking about Maggie Davis. Follow her on Twitter at Maggie Davis TV. Maggie, welcome to our little show. How you doing?
Well, hey guys, thank you for having me. This is fun. I can't believe we've never done this before. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
That's my bad. That's our bad. That's should have.
Not your bad. I'm glad it worked out.
We have all the BBN Tonight folks on now, so we have completed that collection.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We have a really good crew over there. We work well together. Got some awesome people.
Yeah. We had Keith on, had Christy, had Anna, even got Jesse from behind the camera, and he tells us about all the little funny jokes he slips in there on y'all and all the little stuff you got to watch out for.
Yes.
It had Anna on from way back. She was still in West Virginia the first time she came on, and we talked about her earlier. Yeah, she was still in Huntington and covering Marshall and West Virginia before she even came back home to Kentucky. So I know everybody's been tweeting about her and thinking about her, and she's going to be off for a little bit before she's back on TV with y'all. But, hopefully everything went good for her yesterday.
Yes, I, haven't talked with her too much because I'm trying to give her space to rest and recover. That's the whole, we're letting her off work. Let her be off work. I don't need to blow up her phone. From what I've heard, everything's going well so far, and this should be a good step for her towards living a more normal and good life. And thoughts and prayers out to Anna, of course. We're going to miss her over these next few weeks, though, for sure.
Right. Yeah. But so definitely had to get that in. But tell us a little bit about yourself. You from Kentucky, or we knew you from KSR before you went over to BBN Tonight? Tell us a little bit about Maggie Davis.
Yes. Well, I'm, like you said, I'm from Kentucky, actually from right here in Lexington. I went to Dunbar for high school, went to UK in college, graduated. I worked for KSR all throughout my time in college. And then for about 6 months after graduation, kept that going. I was eventually a full-time writer there. I had a lot of different sort of roles along the way, starting at intern all the way up to full-time writer. So did a lot of different stuff, learned a lot of lessons, got a lot of reps in with them, and got to cover football, basketball, women's basketball, everything over at UK. And that's really how I got my foot in the door, and also figured out that I wanted to make this my career and my profession, and that it wasn't just a hobby. It's something I think that I could, make a whole life for myself out of. So that's how I really got into it, and eventually got an internship with LEX 18 while I was still in college. And then eventually the timing just sort of worked out. I was out of school. I had just graduated. I was still in Lexington. This was peak COVID. I mean, I'm talking like seriously March 2020 when I started applying for full-time jobs. And obviously there weren't a lot of sports openings at the time. So I was being really flexible. I applied all over the country. I would do anything, go anywhere, cover any sport, but there were just hiring freezes all across the board. And then one day I just got a call from LEX 18 about this new show, BBN Tonight, and would I maybe be interested in helping out with that as a producer. And obviously I jumped on that because writing is something I have a lot of experience in from my time at KSR. It's something I really like to do. And it really went back to my internship I had with them during school. So that's sort of how I got my foot in the door there. And then from there, they, let me on camera every now and then as a reporter, and that just sort of took off. And now here we are. I do a little bit of everything. So day to day, it's always different, but I produce, I report, I edit, I'm filling in, hosting, anchoring. I do a lot of like long form stories, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, there's nothing better than getting to cover UK athletics right here in Lexington. So I love it. And like we mentioned earlier, I work with a really good team. We're a really tight knit group, and everybody pulls their weight and does a great job, and we work really well together. And I hope the BBN likes it as much as we like doing it.
Yeah, because it's all the different sports, just the passion of the fan base to where you're able to get content. We see all your interviews with Coach Stoops or, Liam Cohen when he was here and all this, and just get to do that for a living, just because like how rabid we all are to consume everything you guys put out.
It's awesome. I mean, that makes our job so much fun, right? Like, how sad would it be if you put in all this work and like nobody cared? It's awesome to get to do this for the BBN. It's also obviously where I grew up and where I went to undergrad. So that makes it even more special for me. All of us have our own connections with the school. And so that's been really fun. And I think you see it a lot even with some other sports that we get to work on that not a lot of other outlets get to cover as much, just because, we have 30 minutes every single night. We're going to talk about everything. So, this week we're doing a lot of track and field stuff because they're over in Eugene, Oregon in NCAA championships. And it's like, how often do you really get to hear from the hammer thrower, right? But she holds the program record. She's the best one to ever do it here. How cool is that? How did she get here? She transferred here. How'd she get into the sport? It was an accident. There's cool stories everywhere. And I think if you can present it to people like that, it's something that the BBN especially can get so excited about, which makes it all a lot more fun for us too.
And that's the good thing that you folks do for people like myself and Vinny, who are BBN but no longer in Kentucky. He's in Tennessee. I'm here in Iowa, of all places. But
Okay.
to be able to have that connection back to the school, back to the program, because everybody knows men's basketball. Everybody kind of knows that roster. They know those recruits. They know that story. Football, kind of the same way. But I've always said, if you're just paying attention to those two sports, you're missing out on everything. Because back when we were in undergrad, it was just men's basketball, and we've got these other things. But over the last 10 to 15 years, Kentucky's good at a lot of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, across the board. And it's been amazing to watch. I feel like we've seen literally step-by-step progression. I mean, I just think a couple of weeks ago, the men's tennis team had their best season in school history. And I remember I was actually on vacation that week, so I wasn't at work. But of course, I was still being that crazy person, how do I stream an NCAA tennis match? Because I just wanted to watch it. I'm so invested in this stuff. And I was trying to figure it out, and I'm like, how crazy is it that I get on Twitter this afternoon and everyone is talking about the UK tennis team? That is not something that happens everywhere. But I think because we've seen so many other programs now do it, and, talking about the volleyball program and their national championship, the rifle program, Abby Steiner is such a huge name that I think, having these little success stories along the way really help other programs down the road when it's their time to shine, that people are like, well, when it was volleyball's turn, that I learned a lot about it. It was fun to watch and cheer on the Cats no matter who's wearing the uniform. And I think people now, felt the same way about tennis. And I hope this week they feel the same way about track. And hopefully we can keep it going and keep, bringing these sorts of interviews and behind the scenes look at all these teams to the fan base, because that's my favorite part of my job for sure.
Sounds crazy. TB and I talked about Barnhart last week, where he's getting the National Football Foundation Award and he's going into the Hall of Fame, and how he's become polarizing, a lot for the checkerboard and for the alcohol sales at Rupp and Krogerfield and all that. But you look at how all the sports have elevated, and I think I saw you tweeting with Justin Rowland, it's to the point now, which is nonstop, but the facilities, it's time for basketball to kind of get a renovation deal now. We tennis has got it, baseball, Kentucky Proud Park, Krogerfield got theirs, the Stoops is going to get his facility without a track around it, and now we're circling around to where it's time to kind of catch basketball up again. So it's always something, and he's kind of juggled everything in a great way.
Yeah, I agree. And the facility thing, you said the word polarizing. I think in a weird way, even this idea of, does men's basketball deserve upgraded facilities, has sort of become that way, because there are people who are like, yeah, we're Kentucky basketball, we should have the best facilities. And there are other people who say, no, we just lost to St. Peter's. Let's win a couple of games before you ask for a couple $1 million. And if you think, both sort of schools of thought, I think, are rational. I don't think this is actually one of those rare situations where I don't think people are being so extreme. You're like, hey, everybody's being crazy. I think these opinions are fair. But I think, at least for me, when we had John Calipari on the show last week to talk, about this specifically, really, I liked being able to hear him really explain it. And it wasn't so much just well, we need facilities because everybody else got it, or because, Duke's facilities are nice. He really had put a lot of thought into it in terms of, this is what we see at Alabama football, and we're the Alabama football of college basketball. So you have to sort of view these things on the same playing field. And then on the other hand, yeah, we were ahead of the curve 12 years ago when we upgraded these facilities, but we have to stay ahead of it. And now we've waited so long, we're so far behind it. And the other thing I would say that I really sort of resonated with me, at least when he was talking about it, was when he said, when you're recruiting high schoolers, and now obviously the transfer portal plays into this as well, but I think specifically high schoolers, you want to eliminate anything you can eliminate that would take you out of the running. So if someone comes to your campus and they love your program, they love your fans, they love the staff, they love, everything that you're sort of pitching to them in terms of here's what you could maybe do here with name, image, likeness, but your facilities are so far below everyone else's. What if that's the one thing that takes you out of contention for that one kid? And in basketball, sometimes you just need one kid on the roster who can help you win a title. And I think Cal has really figured that out, obviously. And so, I think when you really take time to listen to how he explains it all, it makes sense to me. What do you guys think?
It's hard to go ahead, TV.
Well, my thing is, as Cal has said before, scared money don't make money. And, my whole thing is when we talk about the blue bloods of college football, college basketball, the teams are blue bloods because they had that investment years ago. My longtime gripe with the Gonzaga love is the national folks love Gonzaga basketball, and it's like, well, look what Mark Few's doing in Spokane, Washington. And I'm like, have you been to Lexington, Kentucky? It's not like Lexington is New York. It was just people in the 30s and 40s decided we are going to be good at this. Tuscaloosa, Alabama, we are going to be good at this. What does it take? Whatever it takes, we are going to be good. So if that's what we say we are comparable to Alabama football, then let's do that. Let's invest in the program. Not so much for vanity, like you're saying, Maggie. If we're gonna kind of set that gold standard, then you kind of keep it up.
Yeah, it's as crazy as it sounds. It's been a decade since AD was here, and the Kraft Center was kind of pristine. And not saying it's like shambles and there's like mold and mildew in it, but other schools have kind of pushed ahead.
Changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years is a long time. And I was at UK from 2016 to 2020, and the dorms there are amazing, and it's like you get to a point where you don't want to say the basketball players have to have the best of everything, but does every single other student need to have a better dorm than what the men's basketball team has? I don't know. I mean, every other dorm has been done by then. All the dorms at UK are brand new. You can get your own room, your own closet, your own bathroom. They are fancy dorm rooms. I must say,
you can get your own bathroom.
Yes, there are dorms that are like mini apartments, and I had one where I had my own bedroom but shared a bathroom, but just with one other girl. And that was in 2016, and there was two of us, and we had 2 bedrooms, a living room, and one bathroom. And it was much more space, I think, than probably what a lot of the basketball team has right now. And, that is something you kind of have to think about and say, what are we doing here?
Vinny, we went to school in the dark ages.
Oh, man.
Man, I'd share a bathroom with 40 other guys my freshman year. Woo, buddy. Anyway.
Oh, my gosh. I moved into my sorority house eventually, and that was much different than the dorms. That's shared a bathroom with 40 girls for sure. But the dorms, the on-campus housing have totally reached a new level at UK. They are wild. They probably cost as much as tuition now. They're so nice, but not cheap.
Yeah. Well, what is the coolest thing you've done on camera and off? Because you do some of everything for BBN Tonight. So is there some interaction, some interview, some story, an edit behind the scenes, off camera and on camera that just jumps out at you in your time there so far?
That's a good question. I think I would say on camera, I would have to say the women's basketball SEC tournament down in Nashville when they went on that run and surprised everybody, eventually obviously upsetting the number 1 team in America, South Carolina, on a last-second shot. That is obviously that game specifically, I think, stands out to a lot of people. But I was there that whole week when people thought they were going to lose to Mississippi State in the first round. And they beat them. And, then they beat LSU. And then they beat Tennessee. And, it was game by game, proving people wrong. And that was such a fun event to cover because, quite frankly, a lot of Lexington media just didn't go. They probably didn't think it was worth the trip if you think the team is going to lose that early. But I'm lucky enough that my station was like, no, we're going to cover this. Let's send Maggie. And I went with Ian Teasley, who is a phenomenal photographer with us. And the two of us went down there and covered it for, 5 days. And it was awesome. And we got so much access, and the women were just so excited, and Kyra Elsie obviously so emotional. And that was a really, really cool event to cover, because we had covered so many of their sort of down parts of the season that it was really rewarding, for us selfishly, but also for them to get some extra publicity once things started going really well. And that was a lot of fun. Off camera, you're right. I mean, I do a lot of producing. I edit a lot of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I remember when the show first started, I did this thing kind of as like a goofy bit that was like Zoom struggles. And every press conference, there'd be like something that somebody would mess up, and I would save it. And 6 months into our show and into the pandemic, I put it all together in this one little funny montage of hey, we're dealing with this too. And some of it were athletes. I remember Landon Young was on a phone and it just fell off the stand. Or for some reason the lights always turn off at the football facility mid-interview, because I think they're motion censored. So when players would be doing press conferences halfway through, it would just go totally dark. Or reporters would try to ask questions and they were muted, and the coaches would make fun of them. Funny stuff like that I like doing. And I'm sure you talked about it with Jesse, but just getting to show some personality and making the show fun, I think, is just as important, because you can get normal sports talk all over the place. But it's you guys having fun doing it as friends, or it's us doing funny stuff or behind the scenes stuff that makes us different, I think, is what's important to do. And I really like getting the opportunity to do that.
And because I'll mention the same thing that I've said to Christy and Anna and Keith and Jesse. It was last year going into football season, and it was one of those things that Jesse snuck in, and Christy read it. She said it was Luke Fortner is entering his bicentennial year at Kentucky, and I was rolling when I watched it. And so we had her on and ask about it. And she was like, I wish I could take credit for it, but Jesse's the one actually that wrote it. And as soon as she said it, Luke Fortner's entering his bicentennial season, Anna was co-hosting with her. And Anna, to not have kids, sounded just like somebody's mama, because she went Christy, reprimanded her, which was so funny.
So funny. And then it does seem like it's look, what's Christy up to? And it's nah, that's me and Jesse back here concocting little jokes.
Yeah.
Because we both think we're hilarious. I don't know if anyone else does.
Oh, we do. We talk comedy on here too. Both of us think we're funny and
good. That's how it's got to be. And Luke Fortner was always such a good sport about stuff like that, which is why we kept leading into it. I remember I kept asking him and kept texting him is it cool if we keep making these jokes about you being really old? Because Luke and I went to school together. We're the same age, so it's crazy. But I've been working for 2 years, and he's still in college. So it was just funny for me to be hey, just so you know, I'm not actually making fun of you, but in a way, I'm gonna keep making fun of you as long as you're cool with it. Yeah. And he's been a great sport, and hope he kills it with the Jaguars.
For sure. So got him and Josh Allen down there, and
I know, it's so exciting.
Turned around. Oh, and
I love that we're getting more cats in the NFL like that. We've seen it so long with cats in the NBA, and I think that's made a part, at least of the BBN, that wasn't necessarily NBA fans, really grab onto at least certain teams. I think we saw it a lot last year with the Suns and Devin Booker on that run, and I think we could start to see that in the NFL now. Oh my gosh, there's a hornet in my house. That's why I keep getting distracted. I'm sorry. I'm listening. I just don't want to lose it because I don't have to kill it after this.
You need to turn your camera off. We can mute you. You can go to war right quick.
No, it's okay. I don't know if I'm ready for all that. I just don't want it to hide under my couch, and then I'm gonna spend all night looking for it.
Yeah, if you got murder a hornet, we understand.
You guys are nice. No, I think it's okay for right now. It just, if it comes over here, you'll know.
There you go. So do you lean more? You got, which we like everything, but you have some of those fans that I'm more of a football fan, I'm more of a basketball fan. Are you more football in your leanings, or do you kind of gravitate to it more, or do you?
I don't know. I mean, I think I was definitely raised more on basketball, but I think what's been so awesome about the Mark Stoops era is how much that I think I've seen the football fan base grow. And obviously put myself in that. I was, pretty young during the Rich Brooks era, but I remember the Joker era, which was obviously not great for most of it. And so that was sort of oh, well, I was a kid and going to football games is fun, and I like to tailgate, and I was like trying to learn about the game or whatever, but it wasn't the thing that I ever thought Kentucky football would really be competitive. And so I think seeing them, build that program up from where it was then to where it is now has made sort of like the connection to football a lot stronger in a way. And I, obviously in my job now, I try to be much less, I'm not really, I can't root for them in that sense the same way anymore, but it is fun to still be like, you want the best for them. And I think it's been really fun to see so many fans get to enjoy it too. I think I sort of just lean whatever's in season, this time of the year, I'm getting really excited for football just because that's next on the calendar. But come October, November, football is going to be obviously in full swing. But once Big Blue Madness rolls around, that's what I'm going to be like. The expectations start to build for that team as well. So I'm kind of seasonal, I think.
That's it. And we have pretty much something going on year round now. Investment again to, Mitch Barnhart getting the coaches in that have elevated all of the sports, like Terry said, besides football and basketball.
And even football, I don't remember being invested in spring football 10, 15 years ago. I think spring football now, and maybe I just was MIA and everybody else was, but I think just in general, the interest level has grown so much that people are itching for football content in April and May in a way that we would never have talked about Kentucky football in May previously. So I think that's been really awesome to be a part of as well.
Exactly. And on your Twitter profile, it lists you as a galvanized life sister. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's an organization I actually got involved with mostly during COVID. Sort of beginning of COVID was a way to just connect with other women in sports. There's women who, kind of like me, do a little bit of everything. There's people on camera, behind the scenes, agents, marketing, sports information. There's sort of all over the sports landscape, just women in different roles. And our sort of our lady in charge is Laura, and she works for Fox Sports. And she's amazing. I mean, Laura Ockman is a person I've watched on Fox Sports for years. She's one of the longest tenured sideline reporters covering the NFL out there. And, yet she still really feels like her passion is helping the people behind her. And, she does a great job of connecting us. She does partners with a lot of different NFL teams to do sort of boot camps where they match rookies, us, reporters, with rookies in the NFL. And we get to interview each other, and it's sort of like a two birds, one stone. We get to sort of hone in on research and question skills and interview skills. And these guys, at Kentucky, they get interviewed all the time. Luke Fortner's going to be a pro, but there are other rookies who come from other schools, smaller schools, different paths they had to take to get to the league, who are not going to be comfortable sitting down and talking to a stranger about his life, and then you bring in the cameras and the lights, and it's intimidating and it's overwhelming. And I think that's something Kentucky does really well across the board, is preparing all of its athletes for that next level, but not every program has the resources to do that. So what Galvanize does, I think, is really beneficial for both parties. And more than anything, it's just about connection. And I've met a lot of great friends through that organization. And now that COVID is, knock on wood, hopefully behind us, I hope more of it gets to be in person soon, because I'd love to see them all in real life. It's a different thing once we can start doing this all in real life again together. But I will say the one, I guess, kind of good thing about all this is that Zoom and everything else, StreamYard, it's cool to be able to connect with people who are in different states and, feel like we're all just together chatting about sports. I like it.
Yeah. I'm glad you told us about all that. And glad you took time to hop on here with, two dudes you had no idea who they were, but you still said,
that's not true. Just because I haven't been on doesn't mean I haven't watched or listened.
Well, we appreciate that. And tell everybody what you got going. You mentioned the track in Eugene. What else you got maybe that you're cooking up for the rest of this week or in the next week for everybody to watch on BBN Tonight?
For sure. Well, the rest of this week, obviously, a couple more little track stories coming up and some other exciting stuff that will be a surprise on BBN Tonight. But I think the main story I'd like to talk about here is I'm working on an update with Chris Oates and his mom, Kim. They're down in Florida right now getting a new kind of treatment, something different, something a little bit more consistent, and something a little bit more, they like to call it, it's a gym. It's not a facility. And it's doesn't take insurance. So the way she described it to me is sort of, they're able do things a little differently without having to call a doctor and call insurance every hour to get permission to try something new with Chris and his family. So I think so far they've seen a lot of progress doing that. But obviously it's very expensive, especially because, like I said, it doesn't take insurance. So just sort of getting an update on them and how they got to Florida and how the BBN and even a couple of former Cats played a big role in that. So that I think is going to be coming your all's way Friday night. And then next week, actually, we're gearing up toward the 50th anniversary of Title IX, which is something I've been really excited about all year. We've done some stories sort of throughout the year, but next week is going to be our big week with that. I'm working on a couple of feature stories more in depth about the history of Title IX, specifically at UK, talking to a bunch of different athletes and some experts as well. And I think those are going to be really cool stories. And we're actually working with UK to help unveil the top 50 women's athletes in UK athletics history. Wow. And hopefully talking with some of them, getting them in the studio, hearing what they're up to now and talking about what they did at UK. And, you know, just connecting with some of them who maybe were here a couple years ago and maybe some who were here a couple decades ago, and really sort of bridging that generational gap and telling those stories is something I'm really excited about. So make sure everybody's tuning in weeknights at 7:30 on LAX 18 if you are here in Central Kentucky, or we put all of our episodes up on bbntonight.com. You see my eyes? I'm looking at the Hornet.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm here. bbntonight.com. There we go.
Got a Charlotte Hornet in your living room. Unbelievable.
I know. I'm like, PJ, is that you?
that Title IX story is awesome. That, wow. The top 50 over the 50 years, that is really great. And I'm glad you mentioned Chris Oates too, because we hadn't mentioned him yet. And the fact that we weren't elite athletes, and if you cut our age in half, we would be his age now. To have what happened to him at that age, we got kids that'll be that age in a few short years. You're that age now. To wrap your head around that happening to somebody at that age is still, you know,
it's unfathomable, really. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, there aren't a lot of people in that situation where, you know, you suffer a stroke so early in your life. And because of that, there are a lot of additional obstacles he's had to overcome in terms of, like, he's literally too big and too strong for a lot of the equipment that is designed for people who typically go through this medical issue, which typically are much older people. You know, he's a football player. And so, like, he requires a different sort of level of equipment. You know, he can't have just like any physical therapist, you know, like, he's a big dude. You need another big dude to help you do this stuff sometimes. Like, I would not be any help. Like, I could maybe do it with a grandpa. Like, I don't think I'd be able to help Chris Oates, honestly, even with the right training. So it's like he has to be able to find the right fit. And I think this Florida trip has done a lot of good for him in that department. And, like, medicine coverage is even different depending on your age. And, like, there's all sorts of insurance loopholes as well, like, because so much of it is designed for people 65 and older. So that's something that I didn't really know a lot about. That's something that's gone into their decision to start this new 22 Oates Strong Foundation so they can help Chris, but also pay it forward to other young stroke victims, because there's really no community or no support system for people in similar situations right now. So it's wild to me that they're going through, like you said, such an unimaginable situation and still really focusing on how they can help the next person this happens to and how they can help that person's family. It gives me chills just talking about. So I'm looking forward to bringing that to the BBN. And like I said, that should hopefully be on Friday night.
That is awesome. And we appreciate everything y'all do every night on BBN Tonight, you and the entire crew. And just looking forward to everything coming up down the road, the two stories you mentioned. And thank you so much for taking time out of your evening and risking getting stung to get on here talking with us.
Oh my gosh, yes. I put my life on the line. No, it's okay. I'm going to go get a flip-flop right after this.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Maggie. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you guys so much. This is fun. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
You too. So Maggie Davis, BBN Tonight, hopping on here, chopping it up with us. The galvanized stuff with fellow women in sports. You don't have to, you being a girl dad, you don't have to be a girl dad. That is amazing. The 50th anniversary of Title IX, top 50 at 50 UK female athletes coming up. That's going to be a great story. So, yeah, man, we hit all kind of fun stuff with Maggie.
Absolutely. And now we've completed the Infinity Stones for the BBN Tonight. So That is awesome and everything. So glad to have Maggie on. Seen her around doing different things. Boy, they make me feel old.
It's just
Way
no other
back
way.
in
Yeah,
way back in 2016.
yeah. No other way to feel but and that last week with Muhammad Ahmad on, I was chopping it up with him in the press box when he was still with the Colonel. We just passed in the hallway out there, getting something to eat. I think it was a Kentucky-Tennessee game, and we were just kind of watching, hadn't went back to our seat, and I'm talking to him, and I think Brian Milam was over there or something like that, and now he's been to Montana and come back to Kentucky. So, it's time don't stop.
Yeah, the more I talk about my time in Lexington, it's 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pretty much, these accounts that tell you, the 30th anniversary of Chris Cross's jump. Like, what?
Yeah. What did
Like,
Liz tweet out the other day? Liz's locker room. Was it from 94? Oh, she tweeted out something from 94 or 92. That was 30 years ago. And I started to reply with some kind of devastated emoji or gift or something. I can't even remember what it was now. I might scroll through and find it, but it was, something that was pertinent to us, and now it's 3 decades ago.
Absolutely. So glad to have Maggie on and to talk about that. And I do like the Big Blue BBN Tonight, especially not being in Kentucky. It's always good to get a little taste of home out here in the Midwest.
Absolutely. Well, just for next week too, because we got a couple guests already, and then I'll play our promo video. That way, everybody can see what they get when they familiarize themselves with the BS3 network. We got Mitch Brown, who is in Lexington. He is the sports director at Fox 56 News. He's in Lexington now. He was in Columbia, South Carolina, covering those old Gamecocks, but he's in Lexington now at Fox 56. He's a sports director there. He's going to come on, let's see, looking like 6:30. And then BS3 Network got Courtney Harden, who was on the network like ourselves. He hosts The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. He's an Eagles fan, bless his heart, but we'll have him on anyway. And so we got those two brothers hooked up for next week. So that should be another fun episode, chopping it up with those guys. Neither one of those dudes been on the show. So we got 2 first-time guests coming up for next Wednesday, man.
There we go.
Yeah, so y'all tune in next Wednesday to hear those dudes. And we'll go ahead and play this promo video now because we do it every week. You see it on Roku, on YouTube, all of the podcasts we're proud to be partnered up with on the BS3 Network. Thanks to Ben Sutterth and everybody. So just take it all in. If you haven't checked some of them out, check them out. And we're proud to be on the network with them. So there you have it, the BS3 Network. If you want to advertise your business or product on our show, just give them a call, 470-884-0120. Definitely feel free to check out all the podcasts that are there. If you'd like to have your business promoted, we'd be happy to talk about it as well. Just like you've heard us talk about different stuff before, we love to talk about y'all on our show each and every week. We got game 3 tonight, TV. You hated Celtics. Did get one game out there in Golden State. Golden State bounced back and beat them down in game 2 to get even. And now it shifts to Boston, to the new Garden, and all those Rabbit fans up there trying to get another banner to hang up in those rafters. 9 o'clock tonight. We'll see what happens. Because look, you got game 1. Jason Tatum didn't play well, and Boston wins. Clay's still kind of struggling. We know the road he's been down the past couple of years coming back. He didn't play well at all, and Golden State rolled without really him doing a whole lot. So I think it's going to be really fun to see what happens tonight in game 3.
It's a fun series if you don't have a team in it, but it's just Boston. I don't think they can mess around and let this go to game 7 in Golden State. Because, game 7 against Milwaukee, when they're without Chris Middleton and, a banged up, almost letting the Heat come back in game 7, that's playing with fire. You've got to be serious and not give up games like this. So I'm hoping they don't figure it out because I don't want Boston to win anything. But I think at some point they've got to figure it out. Is it coaching? Is it what is it? Because you said Clay has not looked like Clay, and he may not look like Clay ever again.
Right. Yeah.
He's in his 30s, Achilles and ACL back to back. He may not be that dude again.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, the biggest difference is if Gary Payton Jr. can give, or Gary Payton II can give Golden State some quality minutes with that second unit. That's the difference.
Yeah. And how about GP's shirt? I mean, when you a pop, you done had your time in the league. You're close to your hometown. You from Oakland, but y'all just right across the bridge in San Francisco. You watching your son in the finals. You got a shirt on with you, and then your son guarding you on your shirt. I mean, you don't get any better than that.
Look, I'm a Gary Payton fan. Let me be very adamant about that. He is one of my favorite players. In fact, hold on one second.
Oh, there we go. We got a wardrobe change. Because if y'all don't know, TB has jerseys for days, and GP's shirt the other night in the finals where he had Gary II on there. That was perfect. And if y'all don't know, like I said, TB got jerseys for days. Oh, he went the shoe route this time. Oh, the GPs.
The Gary Payton glove ones. My favorite, for those that I will tweet out a picture of these. Love these basketball shoes. The gloves, Gary Payton. Yeah, I'm a big Gary Payton fan. I just liked the way he played defense. He was a trash talker. Don't get it twisted from the Last Dance when he decided he was going to guard Michael Jordan and go against George Karl. And we could talk about Jordan was tired. The worst 3-game stretch Jordan had in the finals is when Gary Payton guarded him.
Mm-hmm.
And, Jordan, had no problem with Gary Payton. Numbers don't lie. Like going from 30 points a game to 21 points a game, something. I don't know what you want to say. And I know MJ's very loath with praise for anybody else, but I love Gary Payton. I love those Sonics teams. They were fun.
Yeah. Him and Detlef.
It feels wrong that they only got to one finals. They ran up against the Jazz and in '94, losing in the first round to the Nuggets, to the Dan Issel coach Nuggets.
That's right. That's right.
All cats, everything.
Mm.
But it's just one of those things. It feels like they should have gotten more out of that.
Yeah.
And George Karl, for all his crazy talk, now, they should have gotten more out of that.
Yeah.
Probably should have got more. George Karl, I think, is a pretty good coach, but he had some squads that should have done more than they did. I forgot he was coaching in Milwaukee with the Ray Allen, Sam Cassell team.
That's right. Sure was.
Yeah. So
forgot about that. I was talking about Denver and Seattle. I forgot about Milwaukee.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of his stuff, in his book, talking about the hip hop culture. Oh, shut up, man. Like, these dudes had fathers. What? Like, extremely problematic stuff, that dude's putting out there. Look, you can be a tough coach. I think most coaches are tough coaches, but you can't be out here pushing these racist narratives.
No.
I don't think you can do it. But anyway, not to go down that rabbit hole, I always felt like Seattle should have done more with what they had, because Peyton and Kemp were, I know they win a championship, but a pretty great 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
I saw a highlight package of theirs come on my team timeline the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, they were ridiculously athletic. Those Sonics teams with Hersey Hawkins and Nate McMillan and, like I said, Detlef Schrempf and Sam Perkins. Sam Perkins is a dude we kind of forget about. We talk about like North Carolina guys. Like Sam Perkins was a really good player for a long time. We kind of forget about that. Like, he was really, really good, and then developed that kind of. He was at one of the original stretch fours. Kind of find his home in the corner.
He was so sleepy. I think people look at him like he half asleep out there, and he had that long left-handed wind up from them little corner threes, and next thing you know, Sam just out there killing you, and you're like, what? Wait, Sam doing this to us? And kind of sneaky, sleepy, just under the radar, and he did his thing though. He did his thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Pacers, with the Lakers too for a minute.
Yeah.
Seattle, long time. Yeah, he did.
Sure, I'm excited about the Lakers because we got Rasheed Wallace. Cut the check, man. Both teams played hard.
Both teams play hard, my man.
Both teams. I love Rasheed Wallace. He played in Air Force Ones from 1978. Like, I love Rasheed Wallace, man. Like, I shouldn't because of 95 and all that kind of stuff. But with Carolina and Kentucky, I love Rasheed Wallace.
We kind of Teflon him about that. We like him anyway. We just
man, here we go. I've given love to JJ Redick and giving a shout out to Sam Perkins and Rasheed Wallace. This is supposed to be a Kentucky podcast. What am I? I'm getting soft in my old age. I'm mellowing out, man. I am mellowing out with this. So
we just giving love to all the ACC. We got some Randolph Childers at Wake Forest, Tim Duncan. Let's see what else we can.
Randolph Childers, that 95 ACC tournament, probably one of the best 3-day run I've ever seen. Just watching that dude was cold. That's up there with Jerry McNamara in the Big East tournament in 2006. Like, that was just that's a dude on a heater right there. But
he didn't have a pro career that we thought, but he ran stuff for at Wake. He did his thing. Travis Best at Georgia Tech. Let's go ahead and talk about him too. No,
Georgia Tech, that's point guard right? You got to put them up there.
Yeah.
Best, Marbury, Brent, Mark Price, and my main dude, who I want to get on here eventually, Kenny Anderson.
Chips.
Yeah, man. Woo. how Bobby Crimmins was able to convince dudes to come from New York. Well, it is Atlanta, so it's not like it's in the middle of nowhere. But to get those dudes to come down there, that's a pretty good run of point guards. When you looked over the stretch they had for about 15 years down there at Georgia Tech, the Rambling Wreck. So, but tonight, role players play better at home. But the only thing is, I think that the Warriors just have a lot of dudes that have been there before, and I think we need to stop saying that Boston is so young, because Tatum's been in the league 5 years, right? Like they're not as young as you think. They've played a lot of these games, so the issues with Boston is not about youth, because they've been to conference finals. They've made deep playoff runs. You shouldn't at this stage be letting teams off the hook. Now I know it's easy to say letting teams off the hook when Steph is being Steph, but tonight should be fun. Tonight should absolutely be fun, because I'm rooting for the. As you can see, I'm rooting for the Warriors. So
yeah, I am too. I can't root for Boston. My sister's a Celtics fan, and so her and my oldest have been going at it because he's a Warriors fan. They've been talking trash to each other. But as far as Tatum, I know he's a big wing, and when we were talking about that the other day, and everybody's got big wings now. It's becoming a norm. But he's wiry and kind of lean and lanky, but he's stronger than I thought. When he tries to go to the block, he usually, he can move his guy around and kind of get to where he wants to go. And I think if he's gonna, I'm not a child evaluator, but I think if he wants to add something, he can add that to his game, kind of add the little post stuff, because he got the side step three and all that, and he's got the nice jumper and all that kind of stuff. But if he add a little post game to his game, I think that can kind of help him sprout a little bit more in the coming years.
Tatum has to let Kobe Bryant rest in peace, dude.
Oh,
come on. From the wristband to dressing up like Kobe did when he was working out with the Celtics, let that dude rest. That's my only thing. Like, I understand he's your guy. And, and Kobe himself emulated MJ a lot, and people kind of called it corny and all that kind of stuff, which I think it kind of was, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It was, it was. So just, all right, Kobe's your guy, but you kind of got to move off it a little bit. I got no problem with people, paying homage to and celebrating guys. I think that's fine, but Tatum, let it go, man. Like, and
overkill. He overkilled it.
He overkilled it. He gave some interview. He said he grew up a Lakers fan, and he was, obviously, he was upset that the Lakers didn't draft him during his draft, and I'm like, the Lakers is fine, dog. Like, we got a championship a few years later. We fine. Like, you fell to third or whatever. Like, it wasn't like, Aaron Rodgers had to sit in the green room for 2 hours waiting to get drafted. Come on, man. They didn't take me second. Michael Jordan did get drafted second, so calm down. You know what I mean? Like, just relax.
That's true. So, I think Golden State. I'm hoping they win. Maybe I'm going more heart than head. But like you said, they've been there before. They'll be used to, going in there, stealing one and trying to get two. I think they'll. Yeah, I'll go ahead and pick them tonight. I think they'll pick them tonight, about 7 or 8. Might not blow them out like they did, but I think they'll get in there and get it done. Horford was out of his mind in game 1, and he been on a nice little heater. He been on a nice little run, but he came back to earth. Grant Williams, he did what he did against Milwaukee a little bit, but that dude you can't lean on him for consistently doing nothing. So
you can't count on a Tennessee ball for nothing. So we're moving close to Knoxville, Iowa.
Oh.
And Knoxville, Iowa, no Final Four banners, just like Knoxville, Tennessee. Because there's a Knoxville, Illinois that I drive past. Last time I drove past, I took a picture. And I said, just like Knoxville, Tennessee, no Final Four banners. And some Tennessee fans found it. And of course, we've 500 against Cal. All right, whatever. I said what I said. We got to, a winning record. Get out of my face with that. That's loser talk.
It is. It really is. That's
like I'm not going to be out here and say, head to head, we've got a better record. No, man, it's all about championships when you get to this level. We are still the measuring stick.
Yes, and that's why they went where they went when you tweeted it. They immediately went to their record against Cal.
And look, SEC basketball always comes down to this. A team has a good run where they're 500 or slightly better against Kentucky, and that's all they want to focus on.
Yeah.
Because Auburn fans will tell you, it's 2-2 in the last 4. And they went 25 years and won one time in a quarter century.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's ancient history now.
And it's like,
4.
Arkansas fans, we won this one, and you've been terrible since '94. Like, anyway, I'm not gonna get my blood pressure up. I'm just saying what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But yeah. I have a little thing. We got your boy Nick Wright. We got Maggie. Talk ready. Oh, y'all, it's coming up because summer be over before you know it. But the rave on, y'all take me and TB out there because as much fun as we had last year, they got even bigger stuff planned for this year. And this summer is flying. These 5 weeks before you know it, you'll be closed on the house, and the house will be furnished with all the new furniture that you didn't think you needed. And after that happens, it'll be July and August and September, and we talk about the first football game, and you and I'll be hosting chats on there, and be right back to that again. So we already talked about how time flies. Sound old saying it, but we'll be on there rave on chatting with folks just like we were last year. And shout out to
absolutely.
Shout out to them too. So yeah. But man, we hit all kind of stuff. Started a little late, but we still got it all in. We was both ripping and running. You was literally running. I was.
Yeah, I timed that. I timed that wrong. I've just now stopped sweating, so there you go. So
ain't no worries, man. No worries. Just appreciate you hopping on, do this every week. We always have fun and always having fun with it. And got 2 fun guests already. Just said they're gonna come on next week, so we're gonna be chopping it up with them, seeing how these finals go. Have a couple more finals games to talk about between now and then, and whatever happens in the UK world. Whoever brings home some hardware on the track scene, women's golf out there doing their thing. So man, it's always something popping off.
Yeah, we had a good spaces last night. We actually went an hour and a half.
Oh my Lord.
But we spent about 45, 50 minutes talking about uniforms. And, but it was fun. We had a good crowd. We had about 50 folks for the bulk of it, and a lot of folks popping in and out. Van Howell stopped by, and we did talk a little football. It's becoming fun.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get Jeff Pecoro to pop in on there and pop in on here hopefully, and
we'll get him back.
It's becoming a thing. We're getting more and more people kind of talking and doing things, and it's a great it's great for folks that don't have a show, but everybody wants to talk to like-minded Kentucky fans.
Yeah.
And probably could have been going for another half hour, but I was like, I am tired of talking, which people will find that hard to believe. But I said, I'm gonna have to wrap this up. I got the wrap it up box. Like, okay, you've done this long enough. So
Yeah,
so that's fun.
I have fun, and I'm still hit and miss, but I get in there. I just been there listening, man. Just put my little earphones in and listen. So I got to get back
Yeah,
in
it,
sync with y'all and catch them and just tune in and check y'all out. One
yeah.
other thing. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, it's good fun, but shout out to JD. I think he's dealing with some kidney stones or some other things. So
Oh,
my man JD was not there last night, but uh, so send him a shout out as well.
man, y'all,
That's what happens when you get old. A lot of health things, a lot of health things pop up. So
they sure do. They sure do. So shout out to JD. You know, he's been on. Jay Hayes been on even before they partnered up, and now they team up to do Religiously Kentucky. So y'all check them out because they
mhm.
got their thing going on every platform. They're on Spotify and they're out here on iTunes, and they getting cool guests. They had Kyle Tucker on a few times, like we have, and I think Van Hop's on there. So yeah, they doing their thing too. So check those guys out. One thing I wanted to ask you too, I almost forgot. I've been kicking myself. We don't talk a lot of baseball, but I saw this where the Angels parted ways with Joe Maddon. And I was going to ask you because you've been part of Cubs Nation and Fly the W, and your lovely wife is all things Cubs. And the only guest she ever cared about us having is Roy Wood Jr. on because he's a diehard Cubs fan. Joe Maddon was managing the Angels, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout. Week and a half ago, they were 27-17, and life was good. And pow, 12-game losing streak. Now they're 27-29, and he's out of a job. So
Uh,
is if I know the Cubs got that one, and look, they hadn't got one in 108 years. Maybe some people thought they should have won more than one with the young team they had put together. Maybe some are satisfied with the one. I don't know. My question though is Joe Maddon good to go coming back to Chicago? He's royalty. He don't ever have to buy a deep dish pizza, a hot dog, or beer ever in Chicago, right? Is he's still good with them? As
oh,
far as that?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, and no one is really uh, most of the Cubs fans that we interact with, and we're diehard now. I'm diehard by marriage. They
Mm-hmm.
understand that Joe he did his best. It's more about the ownership in the front office for not extending guys uh, because, as we've said before, basically the Ricketts were like, okay, we got you year one, y'all should be good, and no, no, that's one thing I will give the Red Sox credit was, okay, we've got this core that's got one. Can we get some more out of it? And the Cubs decided not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, with Joe Maddon and the Angels, there's a tweet that's been popping around every now and then on baseball Twitter. Basically Shohei Ohtani, does something we haven't seen since Two Finger Jackson in 1892. Uh, Mike Trout hits 5 home runs a day, brings his average up to 600, and the Angels lose 10-4. Like, so I don't like it. The math doesn't math to have two historically great dudes and not be any good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you should be able to figure this out. Now, if I'm a diehard Angels fan, and I don't know if there are diehard Angels fans, I don't know.
Was that guy
Uh,
Edward Perez? Well, he lived out there. I don't know if he was diehard though, but
yeah. Man, we need to have Ed on and talk
yeah.
about that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I just I don't know. The problem is the Angels, even though they're the Angels of Anaheim, it's Dodger country. It's just
Mm-hmm.
Dodger country out there. It just is. I think we've talked about this before. With California being a lot of transplants, there's not a lot of diehard fans for anything out there, simply because of the way the teams moved out there. Dodgers fans, since they moved in '58 and the Lakers in '60, that's 2 or 3 generations worth of fans.
Mm.
So, competing, it's like the Clippers. LA will never be a Clipper town.
Mm.
Lakers can be terrible, which they have been, for the bulk of the last decade. It's not going to be a Clippers town. It's just not. It's never going to be an Angels town. Even when the Angels won the World Series in 2002, it's still Dodgers. It still is. The Rams winning the Super Bowl this year. I have a feeling when the 49ers play the Rams, it will still be 50-50 at SoFi Stadium.
Crazy.
So, but you got to make a move. You've got two historically great talents, and you're not even sniffing playoffs. I think Mike Trout's played in like just one playoff series, if I'm not mistaken. It's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is a failure.
Mm-hmm.
That is an absolute failure.
Wasting that man's career.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I had to ask you that, man. I'm just glad Joe was still good with your wife and all the Cubs. I was like, man, so
yeah, absolutely. And I think that again, they're very appreciative of the one because a lot of them, you didn't think they would ever see that. Yeah. But there is frustration that they should the front office should have done more to try to prolong that and go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue is, like you and I have talked before, the Cubs they're printing money because the fan base is loyal. Like, so you can make money and not try to win. As we've said before, I think most people would be surprised that winning is almost secondary to a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's that bottom line. They want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about winning.
Yeah,
Bengals fans will tell you about Mike Brown. Like, he's pocketing the money. They don't even have a scouting department.
Yeah.
Burrow kind of fell into their lap. Chase kind of fell into their lap. But yeah, they made the Super Bowl, and I think they've made some more offseason. But they're not legitimately trying to win, but they're trying to make money.
Yeah, Mike Brown just a miser. He just, like you said, he hoarding his pennies and
right.
He stumbled into an AFC championship and
yeah, and again, I've always given Jerry Jones and your Cowboys credit. It hasn't always paid off, but Jerry Jones wants to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's going to make side deals and try to bring in revenue. I get that. But odds out looking in, I've never thought, well, he's not trying to win. No, he's trying to win. He's going about it crazy ways. Mm-hmm. But I think as a fan, you can say, losses hurt this guy. Like, he doesn't want to lose.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially losing to a Jimmy Garoppolo-led team. But so, and that's my thing with the Lakers is, for a while there, I'm like, when Daddy Bus passed, are they trying to win?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Lakers are on that, they can print money as well.
Yeah.
Especially pre-COVID, you're still going to get the celebrities coming to Crypto Arena or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen. I mean, you look at the Knicks. Man, don't get me started about the Knicks. We have let Spike Lee and the New York media convince us that the Knicks mean something. And if you look at it, they've got more retired jerseys than division titles in their history.
Wow.
Well, the league is better when the Knicks are good. How do we know? Knicks ain't never good. Knicks ain't never good.
Yeah, that's
the best we have seen.
101 right there.
The best we have seen of the Knicks is John Starks going 2 for 27 or whatever it was in Game 4 against your Rockets. That's it. That is their high point. Get out of my face.
In our lifetime, yeah.
And we old people, as we've established throughout this episode, we're old guys now.
Yeah.
That's why I laugh at the Clippers. This is as good as it's ever been. Conference finals, as good as it's ever been for the Clippers. As good as the Garden is special. Okay, maybe. I mean, all right. Okay. Did you see the and one 30 for 30?
No, I need to watch it. I saw you tweeting about it.
Well, I caught a lot of flack because I simply asked the question. I love and one, but are we putting, because dudes are opining like they changed the game. I think they had some influence, but the game was heading that way anyway, with the ball handling and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because what did and one do that really translated? Skip to Malou is the only dude that made the league, and even the NBA players that they interviewed, Baron Davis and Kyrie Irving, a couple of other guys, were like, "Oh yeah, it was fun to watch. They did some good, but could those dudes play in the league? No." They all said like, "No." So what was the influence? And I had a lot of people, "Oh, just say you don't know basketball." Dude, I know hoops, and I know what they did in and one did not translate.
Yeah. It was fun. That coming along, Slam coming along at kind of the same time. You loved the shoes, the way the playground game, the way we got more exposure to it. Maybe that's what it was, as far as being contributed to the culture. But like you said, as far as it sticking or changing the NBA, that what you're talking about? Changing
That was my thing. The influence on the NBA game. You don't know basketball, man. I know what I watched. I know that a lot of that stuff just doesn't translate.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all seen, playground dudes that could hoop it up on the playground, the blacktop, but it didn't translate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a knock, but it just doesn't translate.
Yeah, I was reading Jamarcus Russell's article on Players Tribune today, and I guess his dad was some legend, like basketball legend. Like they were walking through the mall, and this dude was going crazy on who his dad was. Turns out it was Dominique Wilkins. I ain't seen you in a long time, man. But Neek knew his dad from whatever he was doing back then. I don't think he made the league and all that, but that story about Russ is, y'all need to read that. He just lays it all out on the line. If I hadn't read that on Players Tribune too, but yeah, it was cool. Me being from the us being '90s kids, I had some N1 shoes. I had some Garnets that was N1. I had the little slip-ons, the little post game, the chilling little slip-ons. Had some of those. I get my Slam magazines. And
the shirts. I'm the bus driver. I take everybody to school. I'm here for that. I'm here for that. But
I don't know. Maybe as far as
just say you don't know the game, bro. I know the game. I had to mute it. A lot of people try to dunk. Whatever, man. I'm a big boy. I can take it. But to be honest with you, it was great to go down memory lane with all those dudes, half man, half amazing, and all that kind of stuff. I would have thought they would have done a little bit more on Escalade, but it is what it is. It was great to watch, and again, it is weird that this stuff that we grew up on in our youth, we can now look back on it. And it was fun when the 30 for 30, it was, SMU, it was all this kind of stuff, but watching, The Last Dance, and now they got the 96 women's team, and I'm like, oh, I remember that.
Lived through that.
Yeah, making me feel old. But as we established, it's all about that.
And everybody wants to either say stuff like that when it comes out. Oh, it was the greatest or it was the worst. So the whole lack of nuance thing. So that's why everybody's, the N1 reshaped the whole, So I see that. I can see people. I can see you getting all those tweets after people.
It influenced the culture, I would say, but changed the game. Yeah. That's a tough sell for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you. So I have to go back and watch that and get ready for game 3 tonight. Appreciate you like we do every single week. Appreciate Maggie Davis for hopping on here. Hope she does kill that hornet. She tweeted back and said she hadn't killed it yet. So maybe she got that flip-flop out and took care of business by now. So we got 2 great guests next week, like we said. Thanks to Ben Service, BS3 Network. And we'll be here next week again doing this same thing, man. Having lots of fun.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. Thanks, Vinny.
For sure, man.
Thanks to Maggie for hopping on.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all. Check us out, Cats Talk Wednesday, Facebook and Twitter. Check out BS3 Network. And we'll hit y'all with this promo. And we appreciate everybody for watching. Y'all have a good evening now.